The grand chandelier sparkled above the lavishly decorated living room, casting a golden glow on the pristine marble floor. Eleanor Kensington sat in silence, her manicured fingers tapping gently against the armrest of her velvet chair. She was a woman of immense wealth, power, and influence, an empire built from years of hard work, resilience, and sharp business instincts. Yet tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, she wasn't thinking about her companies, her investments, or the world that knew her as a formidable businesswoman. Tonight, she was just a mother worried about her only son. Nathan, her pride and joy, had always been her greatest achievement. Despite being raised in privilege, he had grown into a humble, kind-hearted young man. He had inherited her sharp mind and his late father's generosity. But love could change a person in ways even a mother couldn't predict. And that was what troubled Eleanor the most. For the past few months, Nathan had been completely smitten with a woman named Isabella. Every time he spoke about her, his blue eyes lit up with excitement, his voice filled with admiration. He truly believed he had found the one. But Eleanor knew better than anyone that love wasn't just about how someone made you feel. It was about who they truly were when no one was watching. And something about Isabella didn't sit right with her. It wasn't just the fact that Isabella came from a different background, or that she had met Nathan under circumstances that seemed too convenient. No, Eleanor wasn't the type to judge a person based on their social standing. In fact, she would have welcomed Isabella with open arms if she had been sure of her intentions. But there were whispers, small, subtle details that didn't add up. The way Isabella avoided answering certain questions about her past. The way she seemed overly fascinated with the wealth and lifestyle that came with being Nathan's fiancée. And then there was the way she treated the household staff when she thought no one important was watching. Eleanor had spent decades building her empire. And if there was one thing she had learned, it was that a person's true nature was revealed, not in how they treated their equals, but in how they treated those they considered beneath them. And so, she had made up her mind. She had to see for herself. With the help of her trusted staff, Eleanor devised a plan. For 1 week, she would step out of her world and into a different one. She would trade her designer clothes for a simple uniform, her jewelry for bare hands, her identity for that of a humble maid. She would enter Nathan and Isabella's home under a different name, playing the role of a housekeeper. No one, not even Nathan, would know who she truly was. It was a risky plan, but it was the only way she could find out the truth. The night before she left, she stood in front of her grand mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. Gone were the elegant curls, replaced by a simple ponytail. The luxurious fabrics had been swapped for plain, modest clothing. For the first time in years, she looked ordinary, and yet she felt more powerful than ever. The next morning, she arrived at Nathan's estate, where he and Isabella lived together. The moment Isabella opened the door, Eleanor saw something flicker in her eyes, a look of subtle disinterest, maybe even mild irritation. She introduced herself as Eleanor, a widow looking for work, and offered her services as a housekeeper. Nathan, kind as always, welcomed her warmly, but Isabella barely acknowledged her presence. It was the first red flag. As the days passed, Eleanor watched in silence, taking in every small interaction, every offhand comment, every moment of unguarded behavior. Nathan was deeply in love, and when he was around, Isabella played the role of the perfect fiancée, kind, charming, affectionate. But the moment he left the room, her demeanor changed. She snapped at the staff, complained about the smallest inconveniences, and dismissed Eleanor with an almost cruel indifference. It was clear she saw Elena as nothing more than a faceless servant, someone unworthy of basic respect. Then came the moment Eleanor had been waiting for, the test that would reveal Isabella's true nature. One evening, while setting the dining table, Eleanor accidentally knocked over a glass of expensive wine. The deep red liquid spread across the pristine white tablecloth like a stain of truth. Isabella's reaction was immediate. Her face twisted in fury, her voice sharp and cold. "Are you completely useless?" she snapped, her tone dripping with contempt. "Do you have any idea how much that cost? Clean it up, and if I see another mistake, you'll be out of here before you can beg for another job." Eleanor, keeping her composure, quietly knelt down to clean the mess, her hands steady, but her heart pounding. This was it. This was the moment she had feared. Isabella wasn't just unkind. She was cruel when she thought no one important was watching. Just then, the front door opened. Nathan walked in, cheerful as ever, completely unaware of what had just transpired. Isabella, in a split second, transformed back into the sweet, caring woman he thought he knew. She rushed to his side, wrapping her arms around him as if nothing had happened. Eleanor remained silent, watching as the woman who had just belittled her moments ago put on the perfect act. But inside, she knew the truth had been revealed, and now it was only a matter of time before the real test began. Because Eleanor Kensington wasn't just any woman. She was a mother who would do whatever it took to protect her son, even if it meant exposing the one he loved. What happens next will change everything. Eleanor remained kneeling on the floor, slowly wiping up the spilled wine, but her mind was racing. She had expected Isabella to reveal her true nature at some point, but she hadn't expected it to be this quick, this effortless. It was almost as if cruelty came naturally to her, as if kindness was nothing more than a mask she wore when it suited her. Eleanor's heart ached for Nathan. He was blind to it all, wrapped up in a love that might not be real. But she couldn't tell him, not yet. If she simply confronted him with what she had seen, he would never believe her. No, she needed more than just a single moment of cruelty. She needed undeniable proof. The next few days, Eleanor watched Isabella even more closely, paying attention to the smallest details. The way she rolled her eyes when Nathan spoke about charity work. The way she checked price tags before complimenting a gift. The way she smiled sweetly at Nathan's friends but barely acknowledged the house staff. The way she avoided talking about her past, always vague, always changing the subject. It was clear she was hiding something. One evening, as Eleanor was dusting the bookshelves in the living room, she overheard a phone conversation. Isabella's voice was low, hushed, but filled with frustration. "No, I told you already," she whispered angrily. "Just wait a little longer. Once we're married, everything will be settled." Eleanor froze. Her grip tightened on the dusting cloth. "Once we're married, everything will be settled." The words played over in her mind. She had suspected Isabella was more interested in Nathan's wealth than in Nathan himself. But now it was becoming painfully clear. She wasn't just in this. For the money, she had a plan. And that meant Nathan wasn't just in love with the wrong person. He was in danger of making the biggest mistake of his life. That night, Eleanor barely slept. She lay in her small makeshift bedroom in the servants' quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking of how to move forward. If she acted too soon, Isabella would deny everything, and Nathan, blinded by love, would likely take her side. But if she waited too long, she didn't even want to think about the consequences. She needed more than just suspicions. She needed proof. The next morning, she decided to take matters into her own hands. She had spent years in the business world, outsmarting people who thought they could manipulate her. If Isabella thought she could outplay Eleanor Kensington, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. Eleanor started subtly testing Isabella, carefully observing her reactions. She purposely mentioned charities Nathan supported, just to see if Isabella would express interest. She didn't. She left a magazine open on the table, one featuring an article about famous social climbers and their schemes. Isabella barely glanced at it. Then, Eleanor staged another test, one that would force Isabella to reveal her priorities. One evening, while Nathan was out at a business dinner, Eleanor faked an accident. She deliberately stumbled while carrying a tray, dropping an expensive crystal vase in the process. The vase shattered into hundreds of tiny pieces. The sound echoing through the house, Isabella stormed into the room, her face twisted with rage. "Are you serious?" she snapped. "Do you even understand how much that cost?" Eleanor looked up at her, feigning embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It was an accident." Isabella huffed, crossing her arms. "You're lucky Nathan isn't here. He'd probably defend you. But honestly, I don't see why we even need so many staff around here. It's not like it's that hard to keep a house clean." Eleanor felt a sharp pang in her chest. There it was again. The way Isabella's kindness only extended to people who could offer her something. And yet, this still wasn't enough. Nathan wouldn't see this as proof. He would chalk it up to stress, a bad mood, anything but what it really was. Eleanor needed something undeniable. And then, fate delivered her exactly that. The next day, Isabella received an unexpected visitor, a man Eleanor had never seen before. He was tall, sharply dressed, and had the air of someone who wasn't used to waiting. Isabella's face paled when she saw him at the door, and for the first time, Eleanor saw something new in her eyes: fear. She lingered nearby, pretending to be dusting a table, as Isabella pulled the man into the study. Their voices were muffled, but Eleanor caught fragments of their conversation. "You promised," the man said coldly. "I just need more time." Isabella whispered back. "Time is running out," the man warned. "If you don't come through, soon you know what happens." Eleanor's hands trembled slightly. As she wiped at the same spot on the table over and over again, she didn't know exactly what was going on. But one thing was clear. Isabella was hiding something big, something dangerous. As soon as the man left, Isabella rushed upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Eleanor took the opportunity to act. She had seen Isabella hide things in the drawer of the hallway table before. Carefully, she pulled it open and found a small stack of papers. Among them was a letter addressed to Isabella, demanding repayment of a significant debt, a debt large enough to ruin someone, a debt that, if not paid soon, came with consequences. Eleanor felt her stomach twist. It all made sense now. Isabella wasn't just after Nathan's wealth. She needed it. She was desperate. And desperate people were dangerous. Eleanor carefully placed the papers back and stepped away just as she heard footsteps approaching. She turned just in time to see Isabella descending the staircase, her face carefully composed, her usual mask of confidence back in place. But Eleanor had seen behind that mask now. She knew the truth, and she knew that time was running out. The question was, how would she reveal it before it was too late? Eleanor felt the weight of the truth pressing down on her. As she stood in the quiet hallway, she had everything she needed: the proof, the motive, the lies. But knowing the truth and exposing it were two different things. If she confronted Isabella now, she would deny it. If she told Nathan without solid proof, he would defend her. Eleanor needed a moment, an opportunity where Isabella would expose herself completely, where there would be no more room for doubt. That opportunity came sooner than expected. The next evening, Nathan surprised Isabella with an intimate dinner at home, complete with candles and soft music. Eleanor watched quietly from the kitchen, pretending to tidy up, though she was listening carefully. Nathan looked happier than ever, his love for Isabella written all over his face. And Isabella, she smiled, laughed, played the role of the perfect fiancée. If Eleanor hadn't known better, she might have believed it herself. Then, as the evening went on, Nathan took Isabella's hand and said, "I have a surprise for you." Her eyes lit up, but Eleanor recognized that look. It wasn't excitement for him. It was anticipation of what he could offer. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a document. "I've decided to make things official before the wedding. I want us to be partners in everything, Isabella. That's why I'm transferring part of my estate to your name." Eleanor's breath caught. Nathan had no idea what he was walking into. For a split second, Isabella's expression flickered. Shock, disbelief, then something else, greed. But she recovered quickly, placing a hand over her heart, as if overwhelmed. "Nathan, I don't know what to say." Eleanor knew exactly what she would say. She would accept. She would act touched. And once the papers were signed, she would get exactly what she needed to escape her past. Eleanor had to act. She stepped into the dining room, keeping her voice steady. "I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but may I have a word with you?" Nathan looked surprised. "Elena now. Can it wait?" Isabella turned sharply. "Yes, can it wait? We're having an important moment here." Eleanor ignored her and looked directly at Nathan. "I'm afraid it can't." Something in her tone must have caught his attention, because he set the papers down. "All right," he said, getting up. "Give me a minute, Isabella." Eleanor led him just out of earshot. Her heart pounded, but she had no choice. "Nathan, there's something you need to know about Isabella," she said carefully. "She's not who she says she is." Nathan frowned. "Eleanor, what are you talking about?" "She's in debt," Eleanor said softly. "A large debt. A man came to see her yesterday. He threatened her. She needs money, Nathan. That's why she's rushing the wedding. That's why she's been pushing for financial security." Nathan's face darkened. "That's a serious accusation." "I wouldn't be telling you this if I wasn't sure." She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "And there's one more thing. I haven't been honest with you either." Nathan looked at her, confused. Eleanor reached up and removed the plain hairpin that had held her hair back all week. She pulled off her simple glasses and straightened her posture, letting go of the character she had been playing. Nathan's eyes widened in shock. "Mom!" Isabella's fork clattered to her plate from across the room. "Yes," Eleanor said, looking her son in the eye. "It's me." Nathan stepped back, struggling to process it. You've been working here? As a maid?" "I had to see for myself," Eleanor said. "I had to see who Isabella really was when she thought no one important was watching." She turned to Isabella now, her gaze sharp. "And now I know." Isabella's face paled, but she forced a smile. "Nathan, this is insane. Your mother has been spying on us. This isn't about me. It's about her not wanting me in your life." Nathan looked between them, confusion and hurt in his eyes. "Mom, tell me this isn't true." "It's true that I disguised myself," Eleanor admitted. "But everything I've told you about Isabella is real. You deserve to know the truth." Isabella saw her window slipping and grabbed Nathan's hand desperately. "Nathan, please," she whispered. She's trying to ruin us. I love you. Eleanor watched, waiting. This was the moment Nathan had to decide for himself. Nathan swallowed hard, staring at Isabella, searching her eyes. "Tell me the truth," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did a man come here demanding money?" Isabella's hand trembled in his. Did you lie to me?" Silence. And then Isabella pulled her hand away. The warmth in her eyes disappeared, replaced by something cold. She straightened her posture, as if finally dropping the act. "You wouldn't understand," she said quietly. "I had no choice." Nathan took a shaky breath, nodding slowly, realization sinking in. "So it's true," Isabella exhaled, frustration clear in her face. "Fine. Yes, I have debts. And yes, I was going to marry you to fix them. But don't act like love doesn't come with conditions. You love me, but would you have even looked at me if I wasn't beautiful? If I didn't fit into your world?" Nathan's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. "I was just trying to survive," Isabella continued. "But your family, you'll never know what that's like." Eleanor watched as Nathan processed everything. His heart was breaking, but the truth was clear now. Finally he exhaled. "I think you should leave." Isabella's eyes flickered with something. Regret, anger. But she didn't argue. She simply picked up her purse, turned, and walked out the door without another word. Silence filled the room. Eleanor placed a gentle hand on Nathan's shoulder. "I'm sorry," she said softly. Nathan nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the door. "I loved her," he whispered. "I know," Eleanor said, "but love isn't just about feelings. It's about truth. And now you know the truth." Nathan looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time since this all started, he didn't look betrayed. He looked grateful. Eleanor pulled him into a hug, holding him the way she had when he was a little boy. "You'll be okay," she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, she knew it was true.